afternoon, evening from all corners of the world. Great to have you with us for our session today. Thank you very much, International Project Management Association, for having us as your speakers for the Best Practice Week 2021. We are delighted to be here in this session. We will take you through a few personal agility traits that Michal and I feel is important to reach and maintain resilience, which is the topic, of course, for this whole week, and then tell you why we chose them specifically. That is the agilities that we're going to talk about. So therefore, do stick around till the end, please. So, what is resilience? Resilience is the ability to withstand adversity and bounce back from difficult events, situations, etc. Resilience is important because it gives people the strength and skills needed to process and overcome hardship. Those lacking resilience get easily overwhelmed and may turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms. So this is why Michal and I wrote a chapter for a book titled Research in Project, Program and Portfolio Management, Projects as an Arena for Self-Organizing. That's going to be published in September this year by Springer, from the proceedings of the IPMA Research Conference held last year, 2020, about self-organization that included self-awareness and self-assessment, two of the quintessential pillars of resilience. So to make the impossibles possible, one does have to be resilient. Basically, it is perseverance with strategic agility that leads you to the beam of the light you want to reach. On that note, Michal will take you through a couple of agilities that will make an individual holistically resilient. Michal?
Hi to all of you. So I hope you have a great day and insightful IPMA event. Thank you for listening to our speech. So Raji and I are co-founders of AgilityDiscoveries, where we have our 7 principles explained. They start with education agility, which stipulates that we need to constantly keep advancing ourselves to reroute our capabilities. Education is fundamental for individual resilience. When we understand more roles around us, when we have more capabilities, then we are more resilient. But of course, it is easier said than done. We cannot be best in everything, so what to do? One of the options is to learn about the concept of T-shaped people. This might be helpful. Have you ever heard about T-shaped people? This is a concept where your daily routine, your daily profession can be treated as your main competency, something you excel at. In order to be anti-fragile, you need to educate yourself and feel others' perspectives, other roles, other professions around you. This is the way to be resilient. All team members should share their knowledge and experience with others. And as such, you and the teams will be able to survive any thunder and storms. So, how to make it happen? How to reroute capabilities? Try to change your context. Just for example, Raji and I, we work in our professions, and it is our daily job. We are good at it. But in order to develop faster, to be open to others' perspective, we are also lecturers at universities and MBA programs. This way, we develop even faster our main professions. We keep open to others' people roles. While educating other people, we educate ourselves. For sure, you may have many other practices, and we'll be happy to hear about them. So let's go to another principle. Change agility. Resilience is the ability to adapt well in the face of threat, adversity, or significant stress. Resilience is the ability to adapt to change. The approach to change and the change agility can increase your resilience. In order to make it happen, you need to decrease the cost of change. Yes, easy to say. But one way out of many to achieve it is to make change smaller. Let's take IT industry as example. It's my industry, so it's easy for me to share with you. So in old days, we had huge releases of code to production. It was due to the high cost of change. Everything was manual, so there was no possibility to make it often. Every release was stressful, even because of a lot could happen. And as a result, everyone tend to avoid often releases. Nowadays, everything is different. Nobody afraid of daily releases as we use automates. Small changes are easier to manage and less stressful. It works very similar on our individual level. Let's say you want to make an organizational change and the structure of the company needs to be changed. Roles and responsibilities of people will change as well. When you make it once every a few years, then it is a big event for everyone. It creates a lot of frictions and politics. Thus, it increases the cost of change. When you make such changes every quarter, for example, when you mix people often, when you change their roles, when you put them constantly in different contexts, then they adapt much faster. They change agility and resilience grow. So create a system ready for change. Decrease the cost of change and your ability to adapt. Your resilience will hone naturally. So now over to Raji to take you through a few more agilities.
Yes. Let me ask this question of you to all those who are listening. Does anyone know this trivia of a lobster? Well, do take a look at how they flourish and mature.
How do lobsters grow? A lobster is a soft, mushy animal that lives inside of a rigid shell. That rigid shell does not expand. Well, how can the lobster grow? Well, as the lobster grows, that shell becomes very confining. Right? And the lobster feels itself under pressure and uncomfortable. It goes under a rock formation to protect itself from predatory fish, casts off the shell, and produces a new one. Well, eventually, that shell becomes very uncomfortable as it grows, right? Back under the rocks. And the lobster repeats this numerous times. The stimulus for the lobster to be able to grow is that it feels uncomfortable. If lobsters had doctors, they would never grow. Because as soon as the lobster feels uncomfortable, goes to the doctor, gets a Valium, gets a Percocet, feels fine. Never gets off its shell. So we have to realize that times of stress are also times that are signals for growth. And if we use adversity properly, we can grow through adversity.
If this is not individual resilience to its height, we don't know what it is. Never give up and don't have emotions get in the way and stop you from achieving your goals. Basically, this is growth through adversities. Personal effectiveness and pragmatic orientation is clearly shown here that can be adopted by an individual. On top of that, it is also very important to adhere to our third principle, where the belief is that we have to treat others with deference, which is the epitome of emotional agility in our model, the personal agility lighthouse model. Another agility. It is something that everybody needs to have. One of the 5 traits in the Building the Resilient Organization 2021 Deloitte Global Resilience Report mentions the word trustworthy and goes on to explain the same. Deloitte says that CXOs understand the challenge of building trust. More than a third of responding CXOs were not confident their organizations had succeeded in developing trust between leaders and employees. In the context of the pandemic that we are all in now, physical, emotional, and digital trust were particularly important. Those who are succeeding are most likely focusing on improving communication and transparency with key stakeholders. Our 4th principle, which is political agility, it postulates that we need transparency for organizational growth, which in this case is trust leading to political agility. Michal talked about politics as well while he explained change agility, because all of the agilities that we talk about are all intertwined, and we don't have to use or hone every one of them. Each individual will have to pick and choose what he or she needs in that particular situation and environment, as settings and surroundings change constantly. Here is another agility. We've all heard about Ever Given, the container ship that ran aground among a sandstorm and 40-knot winds. It took the whole world's cerebrum to work at top speed and thinking outside of the 4 walls and the vessel to get it unstuck. It was amazing to see every individual in his or her own right giving solutions to this mess from around the world via all kinds of platforms. Cerebral agility was spurred within moments of the happening of this incident. Billions of dollars were lost per day. When in a crisis like this, we don't have a manual to go by. It is one cerebral agility, which is thinking on your feet, that comes into play. Practical and radical reflexivity is at its zenith here. Our 5th principle talks about how we need to focus on organizational goals, not the impediments of alterations, which we define as cerebral agility. Michal, would you go over just a couple more agilities, please?
Sure. So, our 6th principle is learning agility, which means we need to have the courage to say, I don't know. We need to be brave enough to accept the fact that we can be wrong about our assumptions. So, people who can admit it are in learning mode and out of their comfort zone most of the time, if not constantly. To make you more resilient, you need to learn faster. There are many ways to make it happen. One of them is to learn through others. So when you don't know something, then find somebody who knows. Here, very helpful can be cross-silo leadership. It is the concept described in Harvard Business Review 2019. Not only horizontal, but also vertical cross-silo approach. People from different organizational groups don't see things the same way. We, as leaders, should deploy cultural brokers. Leaders who build connections across groups gets people to ask questions and learn what employees in other groups are thinking. This way, it is easier to admit for them they don't know everything and put them in fast learning zone. Just as example, my example from a company where I work for, we were creating kind of engineering culture. This is a big concept which requires a lot of insights from many different people, and in order to learn faster, to have better progress, we have created cross-vertical teams. Different views increase our learning agility, and as such, our resilience. Across silo teams are more resilient and faster in adoption. That is what we observed. But before we start, we need to have goals and outcomes defined. So here is our last principle. And our last principle holds true when we need to commit to excel in the outcome that is foreseen. It is outcomes agility. High resilience contributes to positive outcomes at an individual and team level that leads to greater overall organizational agility. Resilience is not end state, but rather a process of adaptation and growth. The same way outcomes are never done. They can be always better. The goal is to measure your progress, to find the way to know your current position towards the goal. You cannot improve your way when you cannot measure your progress. So here are the two books which are recommended to read. First, How Will You Measure Your Life? It is a book on individual level. Second, Measure What Matters. And this book is on organizational level. In order to be resilient, you need to have your outcomes agility, the purpose of your life and beyond. Friedrich Herzberg said once, powerful motivator in our lives isn't money. It is the opportunity to learn. It is opportunity to grow in our responsibilities, contribute to others, and be recognized for achievements. Yes, create a strategy for your life. Set your outcomes. Allocate your resources and strive for more to hone your personal agility and resilience. This was our last 7th principle. And here you can see just a sneak peek of our book relating to what we talk about measures. First, we have to make sure that the need is justified to start the measuring. Then we have to make sure we feel what measures to take into account to reflect the progress. This is to ensure that each individual can achieve the highest resilience possible and not fall through the cracks in times of crisis as such. So Raji will now tell you why we choose the 7 principles, 7 agilities. Raji?
Thanks, Michal. Sure, happy to do that. Well, to all those who are listening, the reason we spoke about all these agilities is because all of these 7 agilities are encompassed in our model, the Personal Agility Lighthouse Model. But of course, you're going to ask, what is this lighthouse? Why the lighthouse? Well, to find out why we chose the lighthouse and why there is an inclusion of the lighthouse, do read our book, Discoveries Through Personal Agility, as the story unfolds itself to the readers as you read through it. We have it in detail in our book. These steps to organizational agility stems right at the bottom of the totem pole, the people. So if you take the ladder upwards to reach the goals of organizational agility, it begins with understanding an individual's agility, which then translates to the team, then the functional managers, which then leads to the personal agility of the divisional managers and reaches all the way up to the C levels. Now, this encompasses the whole organization's agility. From our interactions in instructional activities through universities and the varied industries we both have worked in globally, we feel that there are 7 quintessential light beams that lead you to our personal agility lighthouse. You did hear Michal speak about this as well. This is exactly what engaged scholarship is, and being scholar practitioners in the research world. You can see from our signature diagram, we feel that the 7 flavors that are most important for an organization to reach its full potential are in that sequence, because you do have the sequence and you can read about that in our book as well. It starts from education and then change, emotional, political, cerebral, learning, and outcomes agility. And of course, you may ask, why only these 7? There are so many others out there. There are plenty of them out there. Well, the reason is because from our interviews with several small, big, large, and multinational conglomerates, these are the foremost in every one of them. The sequence of the 7 agilities, as I told you, is really noteworthy because there's a chain and there is a linkage. So we've elaborated that as well in our book. Now, Michal, would you like to add anything more?
Sure, I'm happy to add. So today's event is about resilience, from individual through team, organization toward resilience. So we believe we can build organizational robustness through individual resilience. At the same time, we believe we can build organizational resilience through personal agility. So personal agility is about resilience. We should start from us to change organizations and then to change world resilience. So, Raji, would you like to take about some takeaways?
Actually, what I'm going to do, Michal, is just to show them our resilience model. I think that would be the best thing to do. And as you can see here, this is our personal agility lighthouse model. Yes, so in conclusion, we need to know the context of the situation, form competencies, shape the growth and robustness to balance the purpose of one's goals so as to build the appropriate resilience to reach the safe shores of our intended lighthouses. So that directly correlates to the personal agility being the steering light for organizational resilience to be achieved, as we both explained before in our previous slides. As you can see here, our personal agility lighthouse resilience model has 7 personalities to accomplish resilience. So now we hope that you understand how we took all of the 7 agilities from the personal level, resilience, all the way up to the organizational level resilience. Michal, right? Is that correct?
It's correct, but you need to know it's not everything. There are much more materials about personal agility. Raji and I published a book with detailed description of the personal agility lighthouse model. You can read about practitioner, academic, and industry applications over there. So if you want to read more about the 7 agilities and the personal agility lighthouse model, please contact us or buy our book. Raji, maybe you can expand on this.
Absolutely. So to those who are listening and want to buy the book, one of the interesting things that is there in our book at the end of the book is that you can see the endorsement in our, of course, that is there in our website, AgilityDiscoveries.com as well. It really is worth it for one to find out where you are at, because like I said, at the end of the book, we have something called a self-index that you can assess yourself. Also, when you do that, we do not brand anyone like the MBTI or anything else, as we all change and our priorities change, and we are always wanting to be our very best. But do remember, when we said, while explaining political agility, that an individual chooses what agility in one's space that needs to be honed and used. It's all about the situation and surroundings. So when you take the self-assessment, which is at the end of our book, you can send it to us via email. We've got our social media, I think the LinkedIn and other info in our slide as well. And this is exactly why Personal Agility Index is a very, very useful tool and technique. So find out about it and then figure out, can I, should I, will I? On to Michal now.
Yes, so using this word, Raji and I would like to thank you very much for your attention. If anyone wants to write an article about our model, how it can be used, how it can be applied in your workspace, we are happy to publish it for you. So let's stay in touch and let's build our resilience and agility.
Well, on that note, I just wanted to let everybody know that what we spoke today is just a helicopter preview, but we hope we have thrown a few nuggets of inspiration to get you to start thinking about personal agility if you have not already. Let's see if Michal and I can think on our feet, which is what cerebral agility is all about. So go ahead and fire away from whichever part of the globe you are in, and you can also email us at ad@agilitydiscoveries.com afterwards too, at any time or a day in the future as well. Let's go. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And welcome back to stage 4. Raji, Michal, fantastic presentation. Thank you very much. It was very insightful. And also, I would like to say congratulations on your book, on the model that you created, and also for the upcoming article that is coming up in Springer. Yes. So great achievements. Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And also, I got some thank you notes also in the chat for you. People liked your presentation. And now, just to remind our participants that they can still put their questions into the chat box so our speakers can answer them. And before that, I also have a couple of questions for you. So Raji, can we start with you? And I would like to know, does sustainability and personal agility go together? What do you think?
All I have to say about that is that in this pandemic world, global collaboration is the way we work, right? And aligning strategies with a broader purpose that includes sustainability in all walks of life. Now we need to rediscover and reskill ourselves to become and overcome even greater challenges. That's what personal agility is all about, and how you hone it, right? And to sum it all up, it's just right to say what Deloitte says. They say that paradox as a path forward is how we need to hone ourselves. And I'm just going to leave you with that, because that's really what it's all about. Paradox as a path forward. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you very much. And Michal, let's just jump to you for a second. So okay. You have experience in the banking sector. So what I would like to know, from you is, what part of the personal agility plays role in the banking sector? What would you say?
Okay. So here the answer can be very, very long. I mean, for every agility, I can have a few of examples, but let's use one or two. Let's say change agility as just a random picked. Change. So to be resilient and to implement changes, we need to decrease the cost of change. Yeah, when the cost of change is low, it's much easier to adapt to make the changes happen. And so, for example, in the banking industry, we do everything to decrease the cost of change. And so let's use our processes. Yes, because through the processes we can decrease the cost of change. So we as a bank, we deliver value to customers through agile processes. We use quarterly business reviews process to manage the change. We use, for example, OKRs, objective and key results, to be able to adapt to change as fast as possible. So just to give you some example, COVID, when it was all started, through our processes and the decreased cost of change, we were able to adapt on organizational level in 2 weeks. We were able to do a pivot to adapt to this change, to stop so deliver all projects we were doing the project. We were able to stop and deliver the value from the projects we were currently managed, and we could all, at the same time we could jump into new projects which were more valid for COVID and pandemic time. So this is just example, and I can give you much more example for political agility or learning agility and others. But happy to talk about it later or with participants.
And well, you both have a lot of experience in different industries. So you just explained in a bit more detail now the banking industry, but did you maybe see any other situation in different ones, or basically they work and operate in the quite similar way right now in these pandemic times?
Are you? I think it's Michal's. Yeah, it's a follow-up for Michal, I think.
Yeah. So basically, this applies to all companies because everything starts on an individual level. I mean, personal agility is something which we can hone, and it applies to all industries. And what we need to know is not all industries are yet able to have that kind of agilities like those from digital world or this internet industry companies. But every company around the world needs to strive for it, and it requires some time. But the question is not if. It's a question when competitors or the particular company will find a way, or competitors will find a way. So this is not the question if, it's all matter. The question is rather when. So it applies to all industries.
And Raji, I saw you nodding your head. So does it mean that you had a similar experience as Michal?
Well, I know that when we have, exchange emails, Rebecca, you'd asked me about the emotional agility video that I'd shown in our presentation. So if you were applying personal agility, some things that comes to my mind in tandem with Michal said, and of course with that videos that don't do any trade-offs, because that's something that we don't want. We don't want any segregations, right? And then don't say it's not my responsibility. Calculate and learn the dependencies involved. And we have to go back to the basics and think, what is the purpose? What are we going to achieve? The language we use, and then define the recognition, and then ask ourselves, what is the talent for the future? make the shift in the behavior if necessary, know your audience, which is very important, right? Because performance in the longer term, maybe 5 weeks, 1 year, 1 hour even, individuals need to be the change agents, whether it is with intrinsic or extrinsic motivation, and then conduct the impact analysis, question oneself, guide oneself, be cognitive, evaluate with, like you said, the Springer chapter, we wrote about self-awareness, self-assessment, self-organization. So we got to gauge the intended and unintended consequences. In summary, in short, just look at the whole journey, not just the end goal, and restoration all around. The whole life cycle is what I'm trying to talk about. Be responsible, be a responsible individual. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. And on that note, you mentioned the emotional agility. And yes, I was wondering about that because it was mentioned in your presentation that in the times of stress, we also get signals that it's time for our progression. And also that in the times of adversity, and we can use this adversity that we encounter to help us grow in the process. So what I was thinking about in light of the current pandemic, of course, we cannot avoid this topic because it's everywhere and people like to talk about it now and get some lessons learned. And of course, because everything changed in the completely different way we are working now, interacting with each other, doing our business from different locations, etc. So what should be the main lessons that we need to learn at these times to prepare for what future might bring us? How can we use these times?
Well, I think I'm going to say a couple of sentences and then I'm going to turn it over to Michal because I'm sure that every industry has its own take and its own. So in my logistics arena, how I told you about Forgiven. It isn't directly connected to pandemic, but the parallel drawn is that, when we first started with all this pandemic, there was, a mad rush to go to these supermarkets and buy all of the toilet paper and everything. There was nothing in the shelves because people were so scared. But that was the same thing that happened when the Forgiven was, that ship got stuck and no other ship can go. And then people were wondering, where am I going to get this? Where am I going to get that? And you could even listen to the news and they said, go buy toilet paper because you're not going to have toilet paper at all. So what I'm trying to say is that it's not just the pandemic, it's any situation that creates that fright, creates that environment. We got to make sure that we hone all of the 7 agilities to make sure we overcome the challenge. And like I said, it's a global collaboration. Does that make sense? And over to you, Michal.
Yes, thank you. And Michal, what do you think? What are the main lessons that we need to learn?
Main lessons is we need to be prepared, and the preparation is like every day, every step we do is a kind of preparation for something which is unknown. This kind of gray rhino effect and black swan effect, but it's like every day we should be prepare ourselves to be resilient, build some other competences, work with other people, and prepare all the time.
Thank you. And I have another question about your model, the PALF model. So you emphasize the importance of the individual agility, and you mentioned it several times after in your responses to questions, which is then translated to the team, and after the team to functional manager, divisional managers, and finally the top management. And in this way, it encompasses the whole company. So what I was wondering is, based on the research that you made and of course wrote about, you mentioned the sequence on the path of achieving organizational agility. And I think it would be very important and very interesting to our participants today because they are basically and mostly from project-oriented companies. Did you encounter any differences between those two, the project-oriented companies and those that are not project-oriented, in this sequence, of course?
I'm
Okay,
curious to know, Rebecca, what is not a project at all? I mean, what we're doing now is a project as well. Anything is a project. So I don't know what is the difference between a project-oriented and not a project-oriented. I mean, in my mind, cleaning a garage is project, right?
Yeah, let me try to answer it. So basically, when there's no big difference between like regular companies and like project-oriented companies, and in applying our model. What we need to know that we need to have some time to adapt to hone this personal agility and organizational agility, and the same applies to organizations and projects. Like, due to limited time span, might be more difficult. But the big question is, do we really need, or do we really want to have project-oriented organizations? So just for example, in the banking industry, in the past we were managed almost everything as a project-oriented organization. Now we transform to product-oriented organization, because this is the one thing is we need to understand that our customers, they don't buy our projects, they buy our products, they buy our outcomes, and so this is one thing that in project-oriented organizations, when we create ad hoc organization, we need to start in the day zero to build this organizational agility. So it could be more difficult, or requires some more maturity from us from this perspective. But regarding some like sequence, there is no much. There's no big difference, and so there's no difference. Answering your question.
But thank also, you. Rebecca, let me tell you this. You asked about going from the individual all the way up to the C-levels. Now, that was the specific question that you had asked. So in answering that question, let me tell you this. So Mihal's in the banking, I'm in logistics, publishing, et cetera, that I've worked in. Every single industry has its own culture. Building that culture and then taking that culture from the individual all the way up to the C-level is what we're talking about as transformation, and then taking that level by level honing of the personal agility. So in one way, I mean, like Michal said, we can keep talking about this until the cows come home, but one of the ways we do it is to make sure that the culture is embedded rightly, correctly, and to the environment that the industry is working. So for example, music world or an art world, the culture is completely different from, say, a tech world. Do you agree?
Yes, of course. And I suppose Michal as well.
Yeah, of course. And I'm in tech industry, so yeah, it's a different perspective.
And I suppose that you presented this model to multiple and different companies in completely different industries, right?
Yes,
that's true.
Are people from different industries receptive in a different way of this model? Do they immediately jump and say, oh, this makes sense, let's just do it, let's just use it, everything fits perfectly to our company? Or did they have some kind of resistance and they said, no, it's okay like this that we are doing, we don't need this kind of lighthouse approach?
Well, one of the things that you can see in our website is one person in Panama, when we did it, he came and said, we never knew that there was such a formal way of doing personal agility, honing, and assessing ourselves. That is one thing. Of course, there is always going to be this skeptics all over the world, right? They'll say, how, why? It's a lot of questions that they will ask. The skeptics are always there in every walk of life. But that is when you give them examples of every single agility and say how it can be honed, which is why in every single speech that Michal and I do, we always take an example and of course show books, etc. So people know that we're not just talking, we are talking with examples and experience, right, Michal?
Right. And what we need to add, because we are trying to test it, the model, through different industries. So on our web page, you can find some industry applications. So from different industries, not only like one type of industry, but different industries. People are sharing the thoughts and the insights, what comes from the model and how they apply. So and of course there are some people who say, okay, it's nothing new, or something that it's not for them. Maybe they will find a way. But there are different industries, and it works. So you can read a lot of different industry applications through our webpage.
And also to all of those who are listening around the world, if you want to write anything about this model, whether it works, not works, if you want to send us a page or two, we're happy to publish it. And if you go to our publication page, you will see industry applications, AgilityDiscoveries.com. And if you want to send it to us, we're happy to do that as well. Because we'd love to, just like how Rebecca asked, what do people say about your model? What does it mean to them in different industries? We're happy to learn. We're happy to listen to you and read about it as well.
And you just read my mind. I wanted to ask you, how can people who are now listening to us and would like to get in touch with you, can get in touch with you? So they can read your book. They can join you by searching your website and contacting you on the contact info that is there, right?
Yes, and, absolutely. It's AD@AgilityDiscoveries.com. Very easy.
And also it's in the exhibition area, right?
Yes.
In your speaker's profile, so they can find you there as well.
That's true.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
true.
And we do have a couple of videos there as well.
Oh, perfect. Michal, you wanted to say something?
No, just visit our webpage, AgilityDiscoveries.com, and you will find all the information about it.
Yes, and with this thought, we will finalize our session for today. So thank you very much for speaking today and answering all of these questions. And I hope that people are going to, after this session, search for you and get in touch with you, and that this model will be even better and improved with additional examples from all around the world.
Absolutely. So and also, we do workshops as well. So if anybody wants us to do a workshop, we do it virtually as well. So please do contact us. We're happy to do that, because that will answer pretty much every question that you asked.
Perfect.
Yeah. Let's talk about it. Let's talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time and for a fantastic presentation.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.